Hello, folks. We're back again with another weekly setup. I am excited. I'm excited for unrelated reasons to the weekly. There's a lot happening behind the scenes in my world, and it excites me greatly. As a result, I figured I'd do a little bit of coverage, and I won't spend a lot of time on my coverage, but if there are questions, obviously you can feel free to ask them. Let's get started real quick with where we are in the state of the business. And of course, Bitcoin, the big thing going on is that Bitcoin is still in this dwindle state. I wouldn't say it's crapping, but it's certainly below where we want it to be. And we don't necessarily know why that has to be that way. There are theories floating around. I'm not going to dig into the theories. I am going to say two things. Number one, YouTube is squawking for no real reason because everything's clean and Twitch is magical. So if you are seeing a delay or a weirdness with the sync with the audio, YouTube swears there's a problem when there's not a problem, and it doesn't want to let me solve it. So it is what it is. Hopefully it is at least clear and clean, if nothing else. Second, Ethereum, you notice up here is still in the green, but it's hovering. It's at the 1500 mark. I'm still on record. If Ethereum manages to go to lower than 900, I'll do live karaoke on the air. I'm that confident that it's not going to do because I believe that Ethereum is one of the best and it's strong. I think it has a strong base and it's going to do good things. And we have to let time pass. I do think that some of what you're seeing with Ethereum is around hopium, buy the rumor, sell the news, with the upcoming merge. I think that's part of it. That means that if they screw it up, you're going to see some crap out, and that's something that should worry people. Now, how bad is that risk? I can't say. I am saying, for me, personal opinion, I'm greatly concerned overall of them staying the course, staying on track, making sure that everything goes the way we want it to go and that they don't mess it up. But we've been here before with the Ethereum stuff for years. They've had some issues. This is their moment to shine. This is the moment where they can bypass, and I'm not talking in terms of the dollar amount, I'm talking in terms of use, success, and general acceptance. This is the moment where Ethereum can actually stand out in a crowd. It's already stood out in a crowd because of smart contract support, but now it's different. Bitcoin, we knew, had some measure of bubble, right? And it was doomed to pop. It's popped multiple times before. We accept that largely Bitcoin has not been, it's a good asset. I'm not criticizing it as an asset. I'm saying that it's never been widespread like Ethereum has started to become. The theory is that with the changes with Ethereum, it's going to make it deflationary. We have to see what that looks like. There were some analysts that theorized that Ethereum is going to go to 5 figures. Could that happen? Sure. Likelihood? I'm not sold, but who knows? I could get it wrong. I'm saying, if you've been listening to me for a while, you've heard me say, stick with the core coins. They can never steer you wrong. And as it stands, if you're sticking with Bitcoin, I believe it's going to go back up. We don't know how high. People estimate in the 6 figures. Okay, so that'd be about 100K, maybe 120K, maybe. How long would it take? Nobody knows. If you stick with Ethereum, I think it's going to go well past the $4,800 it peaked at. How long will it take? Nobody knows. These are long plays now. In my opinion, they become long plays. We're still going to see some disruption because if you look at Bitcoin's graph right now, I see this as trending slightly downward. Not crap level, but it's going to hit bottom and it's going to fight. And hopefully we get somewhat back up, but there's always the risk it keeps going down. But because it looks like they've now decoupled in terms of performance, it could be that if you have more diversity in your portfolio and you get into multiple of them, it'll help insulate you from the loss of one. That's what I've done with my portfolio. I have significant amounts in Everrise as an example, and it kind of boisters my whole portfolio. Then I've got all the different gas tokens in a different wallet, and that helps bolster my total portfolio package. Then I've got stuff staked in other places. So all the disruption you see, the ups and downs, I'm largely insulated from them because something over here is going to run up. Something over here might go down. I don't have anything that would dramatically crap, which I am going to be talking about here next. Now, here's the big one, the fun one, Luna Classic. If you have not been following Luna Classic's performance, what's going on with you? It might be that you don't know. And if you don't know that, don't feel bad because it's not, It's getting shill on social media, and it's getting some shill outside of the crypto bubble. But I don't think people really understand what's potentially happening with Luna Classic. Luna Classic has been, it's like an abused child, right? It's like this idiot, Do Rug Pull, aka Do Kwon, essentially abused his child and then abandoned it. That's what happened. People can say, well, it was insolvent. It wasn't when it was working. And the pegging, that wasn't sustainable. Sure, but it was when it was working. And then a decision was made, active decision was made that harmed the overall project. Instead of him working to try to fix it, which we now are learning is possible to do, he just abandoned it. He abused it and he abandoned it. That's what happened. When it went to its base bottom, people bought and bought and bought. This is community. The community believed in Terra. They believed in what was Luna. They believed in UST. They believed in all this stuff, Anchor, all of it. They believed in the ecosystem. And so they were willing to buy back in. There were people that were instantly made, 10x, 100x from what they put in because they knew it was going to go back up. Well, some people, which I'll get to here shortly, some people didn't learn what's happening. This, you have basically a layer 1 here that's cheaper than some meme tokens, but we know that it's got strong, robust value. We know it's got strong community aspect. We know that the fundamentals are there, and we know now that Terra Rebels is working to recover it. They're doing the work that Do Rug Pull refused to do when he ducked the smoke. There's a strong support for this. That support is lending itself in terms of its graph to a general upward pressure. If you look at its graph, Luna Classic, from the moment it branched from the fork, has never crapped. It is not. It's always an upward trend. What people keep resonating with are these periods where it might have sells, but if you zoom out, as you're told, you'll see it's got strong upward pressure. It continually trends upward. It fights every time there's people selling. It fights to keep going. Do you know why? Because people are, number one, they believe in it as a community. Number two, the rumor, buy the rumor, sell the news, is that they're going to be able to implement this burn mechanic against what gets traded. And if you look at the volume numbers of this business, are significant. So when you have the burn mechanic and a strong confidence in it as a project overall, it's lending itself to a general bullish sentiment. That's what the graph is telling you. Well, is it a risk? It's a risk of losing, but if you look at the graph's performance from June all the way to now, it's a long haul. It's a long hold, and at some point, it is giving profit potential for those that want to sell for profits. You still get the profit potential, can still buy back in, but you're never, even if you DCA'd into something to stack bags to get more, you're still in a positive position if you invested in it. And if you compare it against garbage tokens, which I'll talk about one here shortly, if you compare it against garbage tokens, I said this on social media, I'll get to this in a little bit. Luna Classic does not have a honeypot risk. Now, if you were stuck in Voyager, it's essentially a honeypot, but not by design. It's simply because Voyager was unsustainable. That's a Voyager problem, not a Luna Classic problem. I don't know why people supported Voyager regardless. By itself, Luna Classic cannot honeypot you. By itself, Luna Classic cannot rug pull you. Now, Do Rug Pull, aka Do Kwon, effectively did a rug pull when he did the fork, but it wasn't for the purposes of intentionally taking your money. He did it because he was afraid and he didn't want to try, and he figured, let's just start over, which was the same thing that happened with the DAO way back yonder and Ethereum when Ethereum forked to Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. And I keep going back to that as a lesson that we in the crypto business refuse to learn. That in Ethereum Classic's case, Ethereum Classic went on to have its own modicum of success. Now, nobody builds on Ethereum Classic. There's no reason. I've toyed with Ethereum Classic. I think it's a garbage chain. It took 2 days for me to do a transfer. So it's not sustainable for, building on it, DApps or any of that sustainable. What it does do is as a store of value and for an investment. There's nothing wrong with it. And it was able to get, in most cases, 10x from where it was. That means that there's potential for Lunk to go even higher because Ethereum Classic, after it forked, I believe it was like 10 to 18 bucks. And it got up as high as 180 some odd dollars. Well, Lunk it was 4 or 5 zeros. When it based out, it's down to 3. So now think about it. Because it's cheaper than all these other garbage tokens out there. It's cheaper than the garbage, but doesn't have the negatives of the garbage, the honeypots, the rug pull risk, or anything else. It's already a layer one. It does have some developer support. It does have community support. It does have Terra Rebels behind it. It's a totally different ball game. It would be as if you had SHIB already had a blockchain when it started and then was growing off its strong community. SHIB did it broken. SHIB started with the community to get to a point, screwed up on CoinMarketCap. Now it's trying to catch up with the blockchain that may or may not get it to a point, but it's going to take it years. Luna already had that support up front. So it already got past the hardest part of cryptocurrency, which is getting buyer support and buy pressure on this business. That's what you're seeing. Now, people said then, but it's pegged to UST. Well, let's take a look at that. UST now is trading at 3 cents per. UST also has an generally upward trend to it. What I'm saying, the level of support for this eco is strong, stronger than any I've personally seen, because that people were there, they saw it, number one. Two, people that were stuck in it, and even now, you might have some whales that are going to dump off the project, but it still has its buy pressure because people see an opportunity. If you buy in USTC now at 3 cents, and assuming, and this is an assumption, assuming Terra Rebels can figure out as part of the deck to get UST pegged back to the dollar, getting it back up to $1, do basic math. If you hold a bunch of this stuff and they can peg it up to $1, that's the easiest you could ever make. We don't know what their pegging strategy, true pegging strategy, is going to be. They know that there's burn equivalent because these are synergistic. As one goes up or down, it burns the other one. And so there's a synergy between the two. We don't know what that's going to be. What we do know is that both of them are going to have positive price movement. That's a given in what they're trying to do, assuming they can pull it off. They seem pretty confident. They got the staking turned back on in the previous version. So if you stake your Luna Classic, you're getting I'd say major, but a good amount of tokens added just for staking. There's roughly about 8% of the total population staking their tokens, and you get those rewards. Well, those rewards have a UST equivalency built into it. That tells me they already assumed they're going to try to get UST back up to a level. I personally am saying, watching what they're doing and watching the work they're putting in is exciting to me because I have not seen this level of confidence in any other project, especially given the red, that even though there's sells, it still wants to trend upward. There's still this buy pressure attributable to what's going on. Is there still the people that are doing arbitrage and all the other trading? Absolutely, on both of them, myself included. But I guarantee you there's people holding bags, waiting for this thing to go high. How high can it go? I can't say because it depends on how they do the burn. The burn's going to be the key. They're targeting 10 billion in total supply, possibly lower, but 10 billion is the current target. 10 billion is a significant drop from the near 7 whatever that they got, 7 trillion, I believe it is, that they have right now, or whatever. It's a significant drop regardless. Then people are like, well, if you're holding it, and this goes to my Cardano update later, if you're holding the tokens, how can you burn them? They're implementing the burn as part of the transactions, transfers, buys, sells. It'll be part of that. It'll just basically chip away as people do something. There are going to be people that hold. But the thing is, they know the temptation as price goes up, people eventually are going to sell. Eventually they're going to sell. If they have a significant bag, that's a significant burn. If they have a smallish bag, it is what it is. Over time, it's going to chip away and chip away and chip away. Again, look at the volumes of these guys. 69 million of amount transferred, 2 million in just the last 24 hours for UST. For a lunk, at one point, this was 500 billion. It's a lot. It's a lot that people are trading. The thought is that a lot of people are in the exchanges and they're doing the arbitrage bots or they're doing the shorting or longs or something else where there's transactions happening. It's part of this. Or if they're put in a bot like I do, then those are transactions that are happening all the time. Those are going to, each one of the transactions, those are going to do more of the burns and just chip away at it. I personally think it's an exciting time. How high can it go? I have no way to know because it depends on how successful this is. Frankly, I think 10 cents is reasonable. I do. Going any higher? Possible, sure, highly improbable. I think 10 cents is reasonable. Well, that means that you really don't need to hold that much because it's not crazy expensive right now. I'm not telling anybody to invest in it. I'm telling people to keep an eye on it because as it's one of the core coins, I say they're the ones that deserve your attention to keep an eye on, even if you don't ultimately invest, but keep an eye on them. And just be aware, be smart about it. Don't YOLO into anything. But if you have throwaway money, consider whether it's smarter to put your throwaway money in this garbage over here that's filled with a bunch of kids that say the word Jeep and say the word keck versus something over here that already has the solid fundamentals behind it. That's all I'm saying. Secondary to this, Luna, as in Luna Shiny, is also going up in parallel. And I called out in one of my old videos that it seems like there's an arbitrage between them going on, that people will take profits from this and buy into that one and vice versa. So worst case, if you wanted something that you believed was future-proof, you could invest in just Luna Shiny, or you can invest in both, or you can invest in just Luna Classic because it has a stronger profit potential. You have options. And they're all solid projects. They're all solid contenders. They're not the garbage that's out there. That's why it's exciting, at least to me. Speaking of garbage, because Luna Classic is there and it's trending upward and it's strong and it's not having any sort of, that I can see, any sort of significant fall off, but then there's garbage out there. Some of the garbage is because of the fact that the contract's terrible. Some of it's because of the devs. Some of it's because of marketing. Some of it's because of all of that, right? If I say Saitama is only garbage because of the devs. It's a fine contract. It's a fine proposal. Like everything they talk about doing sounds good, but the team can't execute, which makes the project terrible. Not because of the code. It's the devs. The devs keep making mistakes, provable mistakes, which harms investor sentiment, harms everybody else that's in it. Well, I have a concern about Cult DAO. Cult DAO listed on exchanges, is listed on exchanges. The moment it started listing on exchanges, we started to see immediately. If you compare this graph here for Cult DAO, this is Cult DAO as it currently stands, and I zoomed out April to September based on when it launched. And of course it launched at a lot of this and then crapped. This is very similar to ones like Paratoken, which I argue is a failure, even though it still exists, but it's essentially a failure from where it was, from the hype it had. From initial days SHIB, right, which means there could be a long play. From initial days for, let's say, pre-November 13th Saitama, you have this same pattern, this kind of pump and dump pattern attributable to it. Most important though, down here, you can't really see it, but down at the bottom here, these bars visualize volume. And then the color tells you what was more. Was it more buys or more sells? We see in Cult DAO that the volume tapered off. It wasn't, there's sell pressure, but not significant over the buy. It's just the buy started up here. And then after that, the volume tapered off. Well, if you think about the reason something gets on an exchange, it's designed to increase volume because you're increasing the exposure to more people and more audiences. Here's the flaw with many of these projects, many of them. LIBERA had the same issue. Para had the same issue. I would argue SHIB had some of this as well, and Saitama, and so many others. In order for listing on an exchange to actually benefit you, you have to be a decently good proposal. Something that you do has to appeal to people to make them want to buy it. I'm going to switch you back to KuCoin, and we're going to go to Dogechain. Dogechain doesn't do anything today. Its proposal is that it's going to do this stuff and make Doge more valuable, et cetera, and so on. And so right now, if you notice, it's trading largely sideways with more sell pressure than buy pressure. Well, it's trading sideways though. And you're wondering, well, how's that possible that it's effectively trading sideways? Like if I look at the price when it came in versus where it's at, it's not that bad. It's sell, certainly, but it's largely sideways. It has not done this business. It's kind of gone like this and then kind of tapered sideways. Well, how is that possible when you got excessive sell pressure? And the reason, it's simple. At the top here, if you notice my total volume, my amounts and my volumes, my amount is almost 1 billion. This was over almost 2 billion at one point, and then 2 million in volume. If I go back to Cult now, the volume is 140,000, right? Market cap of 40 million is not bad, but the volume is extremely low. What happens is I covered in my Cult video that I have no issue with what you're trying to do. And it sounds like something that's very similar to other concepts. My issue always had been with their messaging. Their messaging sucks. Their marketing sucks. If you don't attract people with something specific, and your site should tell people exactly what you do, not read the manifesto, but on your site, and it's clear and it's written like a normal person would speak, as I do, you're not going to long-term appeal outside the bubble. The people on the exchanges largely are outside the bubble. They're just regular investors that don't care about, this charity, something that you did, or this proposal that you did. They don't care. They care that this that I'm doing is going to make you money. And if you stick with it, we're going to make you long-term rewards and etc. Or that it's so much volume, so much popularity that they can arbitrage it. That's all they care about in the exchanges. So the key should be get your project to a level of success before you get on the exchange. They didn't do that because all they focused on was read the manifesto, and the vast majority outside the bubble weren't going to read that manifesto. Even if they did, it's garbage as it's put out. There were people on CoinMarketCap's community that even said this graph was built in, or this flowchart was built in MS Paint, and the words don't mean anything. It's all garbage, and why should I do it? Now you've created this segment of the audience who's openly trashing your project, telling people this is garbage because of XYZ. This is what you don't want. Well, their message had always been, come to the telescam or come to Twitter Spaces. Most outside the bubble are not going to do that. That's why your site has to be near perfect, and it has to be kept up to date, and it has to speak to the normal human being, so that by the time you get to the exchange, you've already convinced people that it's either worth holding, worth buying, or worth selling to generate strong volume. Even if you don't currently do anything, but you have to generate that, I don't want to say hype, but it has to be strong fundamental. If you look at Dogechain's site, they break down exactly, here's the problem. Dogecoin, you can't build on this chain. It's useless essentially, but we want to add value to the Dogecoin itself. And we built a blockchain, and you're going to be able to use your Dogecoin on the blockchain, and you can simply swap it over here and wrap it and do. They were very clear and methodical. They said, this is what we plan to do. Here's our roadmap of what we want to do, and here's when we're going to do it. I looked at it and I think it's childish in the way that it's presented, but they went into intricate detail about exactly what the value is and what this is going to do. And then they broadcast it, communicated, said, here's what it is. Come here to our sites to explain what we're going to be doing. And if you're a Dogecoin holder, which is largely the vast majority of crypto, you're going to get some value out of this thing, no matter what the value is. Brilliant marketing strategy. That's all I was ever asking a cult DAO. And they didn't want to do it because apparently I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, the graphs tell me Dogechain's marketing strategy, though it doesn't do anything today, and people think it's a pump and dump scam, which I can't say it is or isn't. I can tell you that their marketing was brilliant. Their marketing was perfect. Anybody that was in early and got in here just to say, I'm going to get some profit off this business. If you look at its contract is clean. Everything behind the scenes is clean. It doesn't have the same issues as some of these other ones, like Seifu, for example. It's clean. So if you got in here saying, I see it's clean, and they're hooking into Dogecoin, which is one of the strongest ones, you made some major amounts of profit if you did nothing else but just simply buy here and then get out when it plateaued, or just sit on it, or just arbitrage it. You made significant amounts of profit. I must have doubled at least twice in what I was doing because I knew that all it is for profit today. Will it be something long-term? I have no idea, because I looked at the fundamentals behind the dude and it seems solid people, solid fundamentals with the right approach. What hurt them is trying to bribe the Dogecoin founder to get on board. I don't know why. I know why they did it, but I think it was stupid, because that's going to harm investor confidence that they're legit. Like, why should you need to pay them? You should just do it. And if you're solid, he'll want to jump on board to help his project. Of course, that creator, he doesn't really support any other whatever. That's why he didn't partner with SHIB when he should have. That's a separate matter. So my point is, in these tokens that just spin up a concept, it's just, I have a vision and I'll do the mask thing and we'll tie into Vasco da Gama and all this. You haven't sold people outside the bubble, which are the other 94, 93% of the world. You haven't created something compelling for those people. So that is reflected in not just the visual of the graph, but the chart, the volume numbers. Your volume numbers are low. If you're okay with that, then it is what it is. I'm not. I think volume matters. I think it's important. Now, I made the association between cult DAO and Scientology. Scientology, what they do at a high level. So you got the front-facing Scientology, the public, what the public sees. And then you got the behind the scenes, which is the Leah Remini stuff that's been talked about. In the front-facing, they go out to the communities. They help do cleanups. They help try to find jobs. They help train people. They do all these things in the front And they don't ask anything in return. They just say, we want to make sure you know that we're here and we want to help contribute back to the community. When I was a kid, they had a job posting and it was okay. And I went in there and said, okay, sounds good. No problem. What's the pay? And they said nothing. Well, I thank you. Time to go, because I was looking for a job that paid, but I would have been recruited as a kid if I had gone aboard, if I believed in it, but I didn't believe in, I just need to get paid because I'm a kid. But they do these things. They do these things to try to help in the community on the front facing, which lends to their confidence when they go to recruit people. And then you get into the back end stuff after you get in, that we've seen the coverages and read the books and everything else about that stuff. Cult DAO, from the presentation, I'm talking from how they present themselves, it's clear that it was modeled at least somewhat similar in the way that Scientology tries to present itself. The flaw and the reason Scientology is successful in what it does versus Cult DAO is that Scientology does not present itself as an outlaw mud show in the front. Scientology presents itself as a legitimate organization, ostensibly a religion, that is doing good things in the community and doesn't ask anything in return. It doesn't, their site is very crystal clear. They have multiple of those. You can walk into a building and ask questions. They don't force you to tell a scam, by the way. They don't force you into anything that's other than what a common layman person would understand. Whether you're 8 years old or 80 years old, you can consume what it is that they have to communicate. That's talking outside the bubble. That's resonating with a wider audience. Scientology does that perfectly. Scientology is not in cryptocurrency. I still say they should be, but they're not. They're not. I think they should, but they're not. I'm saying that Cult DAO, if, let's say I were in lead when they were spinning up the stuff, I would have told everybody, no, we need to model after what Scientology is doing. We need to essentially do what they're doing, but be a cryptocurrency, which I've talked about it before. We should do these community things. We should do the helping the elderly with their groceries, helping the elderly take care of their lawns, and just do good things in the community underneath the brand without asking anything in return of those. Then use investment to say, if you want to buy into what we're doing, join our stuff, you have to do at least one of these things, prove that you did one of these things, put some money in, dues or whatever you call it, to be joined in the community, and then organically grow it. Don't do the mass garbage. Don't do the Vasco da Gama garbage. Don't do the you're not fucking khakis. Don't do any of that crap. Just a straight up, we're in the community, we're helping people, we're putting the brand out there, and here's who we are, and we create this organic growth over time. I think that would have gone over very well. Might have got sued at one point by Scientology for something, but you can fight it because you're just doing your own thing. I think that would have been better received. Once you build up enough community, I'm talking the SHIB route now. You build up to this point where you got like 700,000 people on deck, which is not hard. It's not hard, especially if you were to do what I believe it's Kishu does, where you're actually going to Africa and you're going to these different places and you're getting the word, spreading the word that, hey, these people are doing good stuff out here. Now you can start talking to the exchanges and say, look how many we got. We got 700,000 strong and everybody's paid into this business. Look at our graph. It's healthy because we have nothing but additional contributors, people that want to help in the communities, people that want to help other people. Now you're going to have a strong bet here. And I guarantee you those exchanges are going to back that real strong and they're going to push it forward, help push it forward, not as a mud show where you go to that person's website, this new whatever you create, you go to the website, it's crystal clear what we do. You have photos showing I'm helping elderly people, I'm helping the hunger, I'm helping this situation. I've got these things that I'm doing and it's obvious. And all you got to do is simply create a wallet, do this, join our Discord or something that's not telescam, join our open forum that's open chat and open communication, and treat it like a real business. At that point now, if you can make it work, you can get tax exemption in the United States because you're essentially a nonprofit, because you're not profiting off what you do. And you're doing it for charitable reasons. That's what I think should have happened. And I believe that their graph then would have emulated what I saw with Luna Classic, which is that it would have eventually just kind of climbed over time and been a strong something. And don't call it cult, but call it something else that is more resonant. Because some feedback was that, well, why would I join something called cult? I don't want to be part of a cult because that's bubble. It's bubble. You've taken something that people called you and turned it into something. There's brilliant marketing in that, but only within the bubble. If that's all you care about, which is what I said in my video, fine. I care about the other 94, 93% of the world that doesn't want to be in a cult. For me, that's how I felt about it. A quick pass, though. And let's see if I can find it here. Cardano, ADA. Cardano's had some upward price movement ever recently that's getting people's eyes on the prize. I keep saying in my videos, I am bullish on Cardano, have been bullish on Cardano since I got into cryptocurrency. I can't explain to you why. There is literally no fundamentals to why I am. And the only reason I haven't gone more into Cardano is because I keep getting told in various forums that the leader is an idiot that doesn't know what he's doing. Well, he came out recently and he was criticizing the burn that we see in all these other projects. One issue I had was SHIB, and I did a video about this. I said SHIB can only do so much in burn because everybody has it. Everybody's holding it. They can't burn what they don't own. So if it's in people's wallets, they can't burn those. People have to willingly give their SHIB to burn. So they built this tool to let people willingly burn their SHIB. Well, the whales aren't going to do it. Okay. Every now and then you might have a philanthropist type whale that does a one-off, but you're talking trillions and trillions of tokens. So on the Cardano side, apparently people were asking this idiot to, I'm going off what he was told, what he was called, to burn more ADA to help the price movement. And he says, this is stupid. You can only burn what you own, what you hold. We don't hold these. Everybody has them. They're all in circulation. So burning's not going to do anything unless they willingly burn their own tokens. They can burn their own tokens if they care to. We can't do a burn. Got me thinking. Every token has this, and it's a gimmick, but they have this gimmick where they spin up a supply of, 1 quadrillion tokens, and then they'll burn half of it, right? So you have 500 trillion to make it look good when really that's just hiding whales. And it got me really critically thinking. Maybe he's not much of an idiot at all. Maybe he's got it right. Maybe it's not good to just do the burn as an excuse. Somebody came out and said, well, the burn is for Americans, helps them avoid taxes. No, it does not. That's not what it's for. The burn is to up the bottom price. Basically, what's the cheapest this can ever be? And then hopefully get to a positive price movement. But if everybody's holding it, it's not going to really do much. Luna Classic has a similar challenge. The way they're solving it, as I mentioned, is by burning off the transactions, which means as people do anything with it, it's going to burn some of it. So it's a constant transactional burn. Well, I question, why couldn't the SHIB team do that? Because if the SHIB team had done that, I'm talking a long time ago, it's kind of too late now, but if they had done that way back yonder, at the moment they started hitting this peak, before they got on Coinbase Pro, if the SHIB team had implemented that transactional burn, I think SHIB's price would have been 1-0 less by now. Because I think it's a smart strategy of just the transactional burns. In Cardano's case, I think it's good to do a transactional burn, but I don't know that there's enough popularity of it at this point. It got to a peak, came back, leveled down, is only now going back up. I think it peaked at like $3 or something at the highest. And it's just now getting to this point of climbing back up again. I don't know it does any good for Cardano specifically, but pretty much any of these other ones, they could do the transactional burns and eventually chip away at it if they've got a lot of volume. Cardano doesn't have a significant amount of volume though. It's kind of a fake out. And with Cardano, I do believe that whales are influencing the price. They're creating an artificial pump so that they can take some profits off of it. I believe that. I believe the Vasil fork's playing a little bit of factor, but I think it's more that there's a fake out going. There's whales that are influencing it. So then the transactional burn, if he were willing to, might make sense to take some of those whales tokens, burn them off to minimize the supply, trigger a little bit more green, cause a little bit of a FOMO run. Whether it long-term succeeds or not, yet to be seen. I wouldn't mind it, but he seems to think it's not worth it. And that time will tell whether that strategy proves him out to be an idiot or not. I don't know. On a funnier note though, this past, I posted a video about the Car Salesman on the Seifu side. And apparently what I had seen, what I was told is, hey, this guy, he's stealing money from this and he's doing this. And I posted this video about he had posted something in Discord about an executive order. And of course, CEOs don't do executive orders, for those who don't know, but he's trying to pretend like he's the president. He's not. Then he said, in this whole business, zero nil sells of Seifu tokens from treasury holdings. only to turn out that he eventually sold off the treasury. And so people are really pissed off and frustrated in the responses. Down here, that didn't last long. Treasuries used for expenses. After he had claimed that it wasn't going to be, he had deleted this guy from the Discord. Apparently, I was told this. And so people now are starting to see the pattern that he makes these claims, which, as I said, this doesn't make any sense. You're the lead. You're making these decisions. If you delete it, that's sketchy. And then if you do the sales, that's sketchy. And then it's a deflection. People in the community, by and large, will still support because they're going off the Seifu X and the racing and all this other stuff, and they believe there's going to be something there. Someone made the analogy, well, this Seifu X, does it essentially qualify as a Ponzi? Because what was wrong with Seifu where you have to do the Seifu X? Why can't you fix Seifu? It's the same thing as Libero, in a sense, with LIBERA. I believe, and I'm not in the ecosystem for Seifu, but I believe that the Seifu X is essentially not a Ponzi by direct definition of it, but might qualify as a pyramid depending on how he does it. I saw that there was something that says, okay, sacrifice your Seifu and you'll get a drop of Seifu X. Okay, that qualifies very closely, dangerously close to a pyramid because you're connecting the two. Like I would be concerned in that strategy. If that's what it is. I'm not in the eco, but if that's what it is, sacrifice this for this, that feels very dangerous because it's very close to what was being done before with the other projects he allegedly rug pulled, which is the Fatrova tags. I think tags had something very similar to this. So all I was just doing was just calling out the messaging from everybody in the CoinMarketCap commentary so that people are aware this behavior is very sketchy. It's very sketchy and people should be concerned about it. People responded and said, well, no, but we get the rebase rewards and what we were told the rebase rewards keeps us up, Nick. And somebody chimed back and he's like, no, dude, you're down. You're way down and you're not doing math correct and you're telling people wrong because you are way down here, brother. So this, I've not directly followed it and don't plan to deeply follow it. However, the community is expressing now concerns, rightfully so, with what's going on Seifu. And I believe that what's happening is continuing to hurt investors' sentiment over time. And it may be irreparable, where it may not recover because, again, he keeps ducking the smoke. He doesn't want to answer any of what's happening and he doesn't want to be held accountable for it. And allegedly, when anybody questions it in one of these forums, Telescam or Discord, he'll either ban or mute or something else. In the past projects, one thing he said was, the reason I'll talk about those is it was FUD. It was too much FUD. I can't do it. And I had to shut him down because the FUD was too bad. And what I've said is, well, the FUD, and by the way, FUD is false information designed to harm something. These are factual things that are happening that he just doesn't want to respond to. Well, that means that you're potentially has a risk that he just ducks and runs with the money, whether that's to Seifu X or something else in the future. Somebody said that there were some big players in this one, and that's the reason why it was unlikely to happen. I'm not sold, frankly, because if you look at its graph, I'm not going to pull it up, but if you look at Seifu's graph, I believe any big players that were there are already gone. Somebody else in CoinMarketCap said that, no, he's wash trading, that the initial pumps that we saw, and we could prove this if we do blockchain analysis. I'm not going to do it, but somebody else might. If you, in the start of the project, when the thing was starting to unreasonably pump, the theory was that he might have started with a big bag of money and done some big buys to trigger green to start initiating FOMO and then was selling off, dumping out, and that he was the one ultimately triggering the FOMO and the green candles. So now that's circulating as a theory. And my folks, my summary on this is just the smoke around this guy just keeps building and he keeps ducking it. And he doesn't want to confront it and speak directly to it. Not, well, he covered that name, but going on these neutral channels and answering hard questions that he said he doesn't want to answer. Why don't you want to answer it? I find that very sketchy, personally. Speaking of sketchy, Libero/LIBERA. Libero added this text on the top of their site, on the LIBERA financial site. I find it very ironic, and I had a chuckle when I saw this business because, quote, keeping non-stablecoin assets, i.e. Libero, the whole global market keep rolling into deep red. Keeping stable coins, no profit. Well, it's true that there's no profit in keeping stable coins because they're stable. I don't know that that is, because here's the thing. In a bear market, it actually is smart to hold stable coins because you are stabling away from disruption. You're trying to stable your portfolio. Like from a portfolio perspective, it's actually brilliant to hold stable coins because they are largely insulated from up or down volatility. As long as it's a strong stable coin. USDC is very strong right now. DAI is strong for now. We don't know how long. Binance USD is reasonably strong right now. USD Tether is having some issues, but it's more strong than obviously UST. So I'm questioning why this is here because, again, your focus should not be profit in a bear market. Your profit should be minimizing losses because it's a bear market. So your goal should be, what is it going to keep me from losing? Dollar cost average strategies, holding on stable coins, avoiding sketchy tokens. That's a strategy. If you're a gambler, then what they say is fine. I don't support that they're speaking to the gamblers at all. I don't support that at all. And then it's just a pitch of the Binance USD miner. However, as I covered on my other video of the disgruntled investors, people have called out that you lose money in these miners because of the way the fee structure works. And I said, yeah, that's how it's designed. They built it that way. They just didn't tell you that up front, but they built it that way. When this launched, though, they were giving away $12,000 and all sorts of crazy amounts in order for you to put stuff in there. Well, if you go down on this site, this number has not significantly changed for like a month-ish. It's not a significant amount. And again, Libero had over 150,000 holders, which means they have not been successful in getting the vast majority of Libero holders bought in on this business. If you look at the claim versus how much is in the pool, this isn't really impressive. 1 million, given how long it's been out, it's not really impressive, not to me. And then, of course, you got a third of that has been claimed. Now, down here is where they do the table that breaks out, okay, here's how much we gave, and here's how much they put in for this. Notice how smaller this is. This number is largely the same. It used to be double what it was. Now it's down, but this number is dwindling. Notice this used to be high. This used to be people putting in like, 12,000. I saw one was 20,000, all these whales, because I said this was built around whales. This number's going down. This person won off only a $700 investment. This person won off only a near $900 investment. My point is that the whales, they're done dumping money in the project. I would argue that this guy or lady got a really good deal. They got a really good deal because just only putting $700, I'm not going to do it, but that's a good deal to get this much. Like from a return perspective, this is really good. When we had it where you had to put in like $7,000 to get the 6, I don't think that was a good deal at all, frankly. But this is an amazing deal this person got. I'm not saying that it's still good of what they're trying to do with this business. I'm saying that the whales, the newness is gone for the whales. They're not getting the whales buying into it. Well, guess what? The whole miner, I said that it's basically a pyramid scheme because you have to depend on those whales buying in and putting money in at the top to do trickle down economics. Well, if you're not getting those and you're not getting the referral stuff, because the referrals are pretty much done, you're not going to be able to sustain this, which I believe, in my opinion, is the reason that the rewards have been dwindled because they're not getting as much money pumped into the thing. It's not sustainable. Drip had to learn this the hard way. Drip token had to learn the hard way. You got to keep somehow keeping whales buying into the stuff to do trickle down economics. They're learning it the hard way, which is why it's not good to just go after shinies because you didn't think this through in what you planned it to do. So instead of addressing it, they spun up the Thorium BNB miner as another miner. Well, then Thorium, they did this V3 allegedly, and then the Thorium BNB miner, which of course is it's the same effective code. They're just doing BNB and it's on the Thorium side, not on the Libero side. For those that don't know what Thorium is basically think of it as like a capital funding thing. So you collect all this money when they do pre-sales, they collect up all this money and they use it to invest in other projects. That's how Thorium is designed to work. Thorium has always been kind of back behind the scenes. They don't advertise or promote it. So I was really shocked to see them come up with this BNB miner out of thin air when they hadn't heavily promoted it. Well, then I see they do the same thing. And if you look, okay, so 11 BNB, well, that's not a lot of money. And you only got to put 4 on BNB. They're not getting a lot of money on this either. And they've only got 1,000 holders. Thorium has a significant amount of holders. They weren't getting people buying in on this business either. Why? Because the newness is gone. These numbers don't impress me. They really don't. This right here, what's that? Short nine for 246, so just about $1,000. $1,000 to get about $3,000. I'm personally not impressed, and it tells me that the newness is gone. This didn't do what they expected it to do, which is to entice more people in from the people in the thorium side that were bought into it, that believed in thorium. Let's create a miner for them to try to get more of their money. And then, of course, you're forced to lock it in there, which I'm totally not a fan of. Now, these numbers, and with thorium generally, thorium, I would be more confident in investing because thorium is one of those that's likely not going to go anywhere. I'm talking the core thorium. Libero is sketchy because they keep spitting up new shiny off in the Libero ecosystem, and you've abandoned this over here. And these numbers are not dramatically high in terms of risk of the asset. They're not dramatically high, but the return is not that great. So it's not that I would consider this like sketchy or any of that. It's bad in the sense that they're leaping to another shiny, yes, from Libero. I'm saying that in terms of the return, I'm not sold that it's worth it. I'm not sold that it's worth doing. And of course, well, that's not so bad. So, but still $1,000. So, and then you can't do the automation, and then you're nailed with fees. So I'm not saying that it's for those that are whales, it's great because you don't care about the fees. But if you're not a whaling into this stuff, which you're not going to get a good return, I personally don't whatever. Personally. So then Libera, the price of Libera has been steadily going down. There's two reasons. One is, of course, the pump and dump that's happening on DigiFinex. To my knowledge, they still didn't get it on LBank. To my knowledge, they still didn't get it on Bitmart, even though they promised that months ago. And I don't see a focus on getting it on either. And that concerns me greatly because it's something that they promised to the community and didn't deliver. I can probably think of why they didn't. It's because the exchanges they're not sold. They don't believe that these are worth doing. That's a shame because if they got it on LBank, I do think it would have some upward price movement. And that would conversely help Libero. But they've been chatting on social media, adamantly not focused on Libero at all. And so anybody stuck in the banks, again, Libero is still somewhat profitable, but it's nowhere near what it used to be. It's profitable, but not significant. It's been dwindling in price now, not because of sales, but mostly because of the Phantom, the core token. And I do think it'll come back. But right now, Phantom is losing its profitability, the Libero side. And if they do the Libera, I think that'll be the death knell there. So that's why they've gone all in on these miners. But I see with this business here, the root of the problem, and that's my summary. In their mind, you should simply focus on profit. And I'm telling you straight here, everybody listening to me here, no, you don't focus on profit in a bear market. It's illogical to do this. It's stupid to do that. This is desperation. This whole big box is desperation. In a bear market, your focus, if you're smart about it, your focus should be stability of assets. That means some assets are going to have their climbs and some assets are going to have their downs. And you should focus on stability of your portfolio during the bear market period. This doesn't mean that you don't look for profit potential. I'm saying it shouldn't be your focus. It's stupid to think that because it's a bear market. And in a lot of cases, you don't know why. You don't know why certain ones are crapping and failing. Stability is the key. If you know, like with this Bitcoin business, it got to 24, 25 very recently, and then now about down to 19,000, you might still hold it and be okay with it, sure. But some people might say when it hits 25 and goes 24, I'm just going to stable it right now because I think it's going to go down $4,000. That's actually perfectly fine. In a bear market, it's actually smart in a bear market. Some people are just going to buy the dips over and over again. No problem. But buying the dip is not a profit strategy. It's a stability strategy, or essentially DCAing to a point to make sure that your value hits a certain level and stays there by initial investment because you believe long-term it'll get to a point of profitability. So I'm going to straight say this is an unacceptable statement. In my personal opinion, stable coins are perfectly fine and perfectly reasonable because they're stable in a bear market. They don't make sense in a bull market, but they make perfect sense in a bear market. So this all screams of desperation. Is they're seeing that people aren't buying into the miner and people are not buying into the project, and they don't understand that it's their approach that's causing that. Their approach is profit driven. Their approach makes sense in a bull market. It doesn't make sense in a bear market. We're not out of the bear market. So stop doing this approach and appeal to bear market methodologies. Maybe it makes sense, I don't know, but maybe it makes sense to consider stable coins as the ins and outs of it. Maybe that makes better sense. Maybe it makes better sense that your banks, all the banks, simply pay in stable coin. Maybe that makes sense because now you're appealing to the bear market people and you stop paying off of the printing, the inflation of the rewards on the LIBERA side. Now, my last update, I saved the best for last. This, if you didn't see this chaos, it ties back to Luna Classic. I think everybody on this knows who Jake Gagain is. People pronounce it Gagin. I say Jake Gagain because it's AIN. So Jake Gagain a while back tweeted, quote, "I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Lunk is dead and never coming back." He just straight said this on August 22nd, to which Mr. Diamond Hands won, quote, "Parabolic run confirmed." Well, wouldn't you know who won the pony? Immediately from the day, I marked right down here, see down here, I marked from the day he tweeted this. From the day he tweeted it, it immediately went on a meteoric run. This is Luna Classic. Meteoric run. Mind you, at that time, it had 4 zeros. If you're watching the graph, let me remind you of where we were versus where we are. We are at 3 zeros, 24 as of current. It got as high as 3 zeros and 30,000 as of current. When he tweeted that, it was 4 zeros and 8. It went on a meteoric run from the moment he sent that illogical, ill thought out, poorly thought, poorly timed tweet talking about it's dead. Immediately went meteoric. This told me, when I gave way back, I gave a video about Fat Man Terra where he's like, it's impossible for it to get back at the whatever. And I said, you're using the wrong words. It's not impossible. It's just highly improbable. That's what I'm talking about. And it's why I hardly ever speak in absolutes unless I'm 100%. And in something like this, he made himself look like an idiot because it's like, dude, dead. Are you serious? I remind you, Luna Classic has traded sideways or up for the vast majority of its run. There was no reason for him to talk about dead at all because nothing fundamental would have told him that. And so I was really disappointed. But what it told me, I looked at patterns, right? Jake Gagain is, of course, well known for being the one person, arguably, who killed the business for Saitama during the failed November 13th Vegas event because of what happened, him being asked to do the coverage when he was ill qualified to do it. And then he was shilling and it was going down and all that stuff. I realize, anybody that knows about the Drake curse, he'll say this sports team's about to win and then they get a blowout loss, or this fighter's about to beat this guy and they get knocked out or something. The Drake curse is whatever Drake says is probably going to happen, bet on the opposite, and that's just been a thing. We have the Jake Gagain curse because he has a pattern of where he'll just go after a project, and that project will either, if he goes for it, it'll either crap or fail, or if he's against it, it'll just start going to the moon, do. He started pitching on Cult DAO. As I just showed you not long ago, the moment he started going after Cult DAO, it started tanking again. So what I've settled on is, okay, I'll do my fundamentals as I always do for my own investment. But now when I'm looking for these projects that are diamonds in the rough, I just need to do the opposite of what Jake Gagain says. And it's likely going to go somewhere and make me either some money or be a strong investment because the dude, I know why he's doing it. And my summary here is that some of these influencers, what they do is they'll say incendiary things because they know it creates engagement. And they know that the engagement influences the algorithm of Twitter and YouTube and Telescam and so on to then feed you more of that person's content. I got it. No problem. But all I'm saying is, speaking in absolutes as this guy did, is I'm boggled, I'm baffled. I don't know why he knew the moment he started typing that that it didn't make any damn sense whatsoever. And he just made himself look like an idiot. On the upside, I made a lot of money off Luna Classic and continue to do so. And I'm happy to say at the end of the day, I'm just going to do the opposite of what Jake again says and watch my portfolio, and hopefully I'll make some really good money on doing what he does not recommend that I do. Like with Cult DAO, like I've completely avoided it because it keeps crapping, and then hopefully he'll stop talking about it, and then maybe it'll go on an upward rise. It's kind of what I'm waiting on. Let time pass and see how that all goes. My summary again, don't speak in absolutes when you don't, you know better than that. You know better than that. You know good and damn well what you're saying. Number one, can't be proven. Number two was already disproven the moment it forked off because it already had upward trend. And you're just trying to trigger because you know about engagement, and I understand the algorithms. I see the same data you do. But come on, let's have some, as Chris Eubank would say, let's have some parliamentary procedure here and be on the level, man. Just say, I don't believe Luna Classic has a chance to succeed long term. That's a fair, absolute assessment that people truly have. But to just say dead and to say never coming back in complete contradict to the very graphs you see that I see makes you look like an idiot. And then you change your avatar to an NFT, makes you look like more of an idiot, like you're ducking the smoke, in my personal opinion anyway. That's all I got as far as topics. This was my swan song. This is like, you know, this one went almost viral. This was excellent. This was good. I truly enjoyed it. I enjoyed calling this out. You know, it's a beautiful thing. If anybody has any questions, comments, feedback, or anything else, please do leave them in the chat, either here or at Twitch, which I think Twitch is still awesome. And I will make sure I get you an answer. Twitch is clean, so that's good. Cool business. If something comes up to you after the fact, leave in the comments below. I read each and every one of them. They are filtered because of the post chain spammers, but I do read each and every one of them, and I will respond if it's something I can respond to. We'll be back again next weekend, roughly the same time, with a different set of topics. Next weekend is going to be excellent. I think much more fun because we're coming out of this, hopefully, out of this bear period and going back on a run of good stuff. And I'm going to be talking more about some of these other tokens that have spun up during this bear period and giving a little bit more light back to the swag reviews during the weekly. So I'm going to be switching format ever so slightly. Until then, thank you for those dialing live. For those after the fact, thank you for checking out the video. CryptoTalkRadio.net. If you have any feedback that you don't want public, you can fill out the contact form there. Otherwise, comment below and I will see it after I filter the spam and respond to you accordingly. And I will see you guys next week.